shape which looked like it meant most clearly what the letter actually means, because the letter means something. So I'll show you what I mean. So in other words, this lettering font that I'm using wasn't necessarily, in fact, it probably wasn't found on any particular artifact. This letter shape might have come from 2000 BC, this one maybe from 500 BC, then this one from 1500 BC, maybe these 3 or 4 from the... But in thinking about the letter shape, the letters mean something. And so the reason why I've taken this letter shape is because I'm not trying to be archaeologically accurate for an era, which Jeff Benner's doing. He took one and they said, oh, this is an ancient one. I'm trying to say, there's a reason why we have this. There's a reason for studying this, and it has to do with comprehending the message that the Creator gave us. And if you can't understand the letters, or if the letter shapes are confusing or kind of, jarring on your eyes, it does you no value. So I'm not trying to copy some other scribe's writing. I'm trying to look at the letter shapes which tell you what they mean as clearly as possible. So I'll show you the letter shapes that I use, and I'll explain what the letters mean. Now this is only one way of reading the letters. I got to show you still the code that's embedded that shows you what the alphabet actually means. But I'm going to show you the letters because you got to keep track here. Okay, the letter Aleph. You can see our letter A spun sideways, but see, it's an ox head. There's horns, there's ears, there's eyeballs, right? There's an ox head. See the letter Aleph there? See the shape of the A? Everybody see that? Okay, Aleph is an ox. The letter Bet. Here's a picture of an embryo. Or a tadpole. See that? It's to begin to put something into bodily form. If you're going to do a tent, there's the shape, and if you put this up into 3 dimensions, basically, and put a cover over it. Here you have the vestibule, or the public area, and then around the corner you have the private area. It's a shape like this. The head is the personal space, and the backbone is formed as the public space, where the arms and the legs form from it. So you have this concept here of an interior personal space and also an exterior public space. As a matter of fact, when you go back to the Shema, there's an embodiment of a bet notion within the instructions. He says, you shall think of these things, and you shall speak of these things, and teach them to your children. You will, when you think and speak, that's in your personal space, like in your mind, which is this space here. And then when you extend them out to your children, you're reaching out. And you will think of them when you lie down and when you rise up. When you lie down into your private space, when you get up into the public space. You will write them on the doorpost of your house, that's your private space, and upon your gates, that's the public space. Frontlets between your eyes and upon your hand, personal and public again. So the bet has more to do with, it's just a body, or it's just a house. It's also incorporating these ideas into it. So the notion of bet, this class I gave last year, 2 hours per letter. I can't begin to do that now. I'm trying to give you an overview. Go back and watch it on YouTube if you want. But I'm saying there's a lot in each one of these things. Not just what the letter looks like and what it means, but how it can be seen in the scriptures. The notions of the letters are embedded within the writings. You'd say, well, so what? If I tell you that when he says the Shema of where to write these things and when to think of these things, lie down and rise up and teach them to your children, write them on the doorpost of the house and upon your gates, you go, so what? It's just a bunch of instructions. But for me to say, no, look, it's incorporating the letter bet. It's like, so what? It's like, who cares if it's incorporating the letter bet? But if you know what bet means, you'll see so what. And then when you notice it's the letter bet, it's like, oh. And there's another level of connection there. somebody asked me about the word Torah. I'm going to get to that in a minute. And I want to show you something in Psalm 23. So I'm going to write a note here to myself. They'll give you a little clue what I'm talking about. Anyway, the letter Gimel. Remember, in the modern, it had a foot. It's the letter with a foot. It means to move, to give. But in Paleo, there's not that. It's the head and neck of a camel. There's the head, and there's the neck, and there's the hump, and there's 4 feet, right? There's the head and neck of the camel. It's also a boomerang shape. What do you do with a boomerang? You throw it and it comes back. What do you do with your truck? You send out and it comes back. It's a vehicle, but as a vehicle, it's also a road. The camel eats something and it goes down its neck into his stomach. It's a path, it's a conduit, it's a pipeline. All these things are Gimel. Gimel's a lot more than just saying camel. But if you can see the Gimel in the shape, like a boomerang, like the head and neck of a camel, that's the important thing. Dalet is a door. Well, how's a triangle a door? Well, if you think of an hourglass, you have sand up here, and it comes down and comes through here. That's the easiest thing to see of a door. If you have a house and you take a deer skin or your Pioneer and you hang it up there, you might see kind of a triangle shape hanging on the door. There's other images, but the notion of a dalet is also being a door. If you're in this room and you want to go to that room, you go through the door. If you come to the fork in the road, you're now going, well, do I go this way or that way? So as a fork in the road, as a Y, you're coming this way and you can go either this way or that way. When you confront a doorway, you can make a decision. Do you stay on this side or you go to that side? Do you go this way or that way? So dalet has to do with decision. It's a doorway. It's a place to enter or not. It's a choice to go right or left. The letter He is a window. So if you have a square window in your wall and the sun's shining in, or the air is blowing through, that's the way you draw air. As a matter of fact, in weather maps, they have this shape even today, speaking of the wind, or the velocity of what's blowing. It's still used. It just indicates to blow or to shine, to show a path of something this way. The letter Vav, one way to draw a letter Vav in ancient form is like that. Somebody makes a drywall hook these days, which has a weird shape. You can stick it in the wall and bend it down and it'll handle quite a load. Huh? Yeah. If you draw that in a kind of weird way, it looks like that. It's also a goblet shape, a cup, where you pour liquids in and they blend together. It's also a nail. So if you have 2 pieces of wood and you stick a nail through them, or a screw, you're holding them together. It's all a Vav. Vav is also like a tent stake, right? You pull the string, you hammer it in the ground, and it holds the tent up. It's something which attaches, something which hooks. Well, if you have a piece of land on this side, in a river, in a piece of land on that side, and you want to put a bridge across there, you stake it down to this side and that side, that bridge is connecting both sides, right? So Vav is something which bridges and connects both sides. A hook or a nail. All this stuff will mean something to you in a few minutes, if you bear with me here. Zion. It looks like a hatchet. It's a weapon. It's that which cuts off. Het. It's a fence. It's an enclosure, like a prison or like a sepulcher. It's that which is a container. Tet. Well, it's a round thing. It's like a big round stone. It's that which rolls or spins. But it's also a full basket where you put things in. Like a grocery bag where you go and you pick up a bunch of things and you put it in when the basket gets full. Tet is like the full basket of all your stuff. Yod is a working hand. And it's kind of this picture of There's a hand that's going to grab, and you might say there's a tool, grabbing a hold of a tool to go to work with, a hammer or something. You can kind of see the grasping nature of the yod. Sometimes the yod is drawn like that, kind of almost like a wrench that might grab something and work it. Kaph is an open hand. So the way to draw a kaph, 5 fingers, or you can just draw it with it's just a little easier. But see, if you're going to carve in stone or a piece of wood, that gets really tiny lines, and so they might sometimes just draw it like that, where we get our letter K. Lamed is a picture of a shepherd's staff, actually. And as a shepherd's staff, it's an authority. It's the number 12, the 12th letter. But also, it's kind of shaped like a tongue. It's also shaped like a rudder of a ship for steering. Mem, picture a wave. You've got the turbulent top of the wave, and then you've got the underside of the wave, kind of curving under, right? Picture a wave crashing down. So Mem is literally the zigzag here and then a curve like that. Nun is like a lightning bolt or something that jumps. They say it's a fish. The fish jumps out of the water. Mem is water, and Nun is a fish that jumps out of the water. So Mem and Nun are connected. Kaph and Lamed are connected. Kaph, though it's lines, but it's like lines in a field that you would hoe. With the Lamed, with the hoe, so that you can plant seed. Mem is also a womb. You plant seed in the womb so that after it develops, it can Nun birth and jump out. These letters are connected. Samet, it looks like a trellis, like a rose trellis. It's to support, it's a prop. It's also kind of like a trellis. It's like a watchtower or a guard up in the garden watching over the plantation or the vineyard. It also looks like the mast of a ship. So as a mast of one of these square-rigged ships, sailing ships, you got rigging tied to it. So this mast has to take a load in order to have the wind pull against it and pull the ship forward. The next letter is Ayin, which is literally an eyeball. And it basically means to see and to comprehend and to weigh and measure and evaluate. Pei is an open mouth. You can kind of, you put a nose here and an eyeball, and, right? There's a letter Pei. Okay, then I'm going to have to come up here. We'll go to get the Torah in a few minutes. So, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Het, Tet, Yod, Kaph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samach, Ayin, Pei. Then you have Zadi. This is the letter that's TZ, and it's not carried over into English or Greek. It's a fish hook. You can see this little barbed hook here. As that, it's commonly referred to as a hunter. But the word Zadi is actually the word righteous in Hebrew. A Zadik is a righteous man. Sons of Zadok were the good priests, the ones that were faithful. The letter Kuf is our letter Q. The word Kof is monkey, but it also means the back of the head, and it means a long reach. Well, the monkey's got this long arm, and he's got this long tail that's something off in the distance. It's often drawn as a sun on the horizon, or you could draw it like that, or you could say it's a needle eye, which is to say, it's where you get the ankh, actually, an Egyptian thing, for life, which is after this. But it's also, as the eye of a needle, it's something that's hard, that's remote, that's like, it's not very easy to do. It speaks of distance or dimension, or words where it says, Merachok, actually, I believe it has the kuf in there, which is say a long way off. Basically, the back of the head, it's where it's using the word Yaakov, actually, part of his name. Kuf, Resh is an exalted man, and as such, you could So you guys standing there, and there's the head. So this is almost like the face view, the front of the head, whereas that's the back of the head. And then you have Sheen, which is teeth and fire. You can see sharp teeth. Jeff Benner draws it like this, but that's like rabbit teeth. They're sharp if you get your finger in the mouth, but I draw it like that because it's a little scarier, you know. And then Tav is it just an X. Now some people say, well, Tav is the sign of the cross. In fact, Frank Seekins says, oh, it's the sign of the cross. You can spin it any which way. It doesn't really matter, but the X, if you have a contract and somebody says, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint your house and blah, 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 blah. This is the address, this is who you are, this is what's going to pay me, this is what the color is going to be. X, sign here. We still use that today. X, we have a contract, a covenant. This is a sign that we are in agreement. And if you don't know how to spell your name, you can just write an X. Why? Because the X is the mark of agreement. This is from the most ancient language on the face of the earth, and we still use it today. It's a legal term which says, I agree. I promise to abide by these terms. Okay. I'm going to rewrite these a little more legibly. And I'll say them again so you're a little bit more familiar. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Zadi, Kuf, Resh, Sheen, Tav. Just for what it's worth, this is our letter Q, so it's Kuf. Now I would write it as Q-U-F or Q-O-O-F. And this other one is a Kaph, which is with a K. Now the problem with writing the word Kadosh, everybody writes it with a K, but it's spelled with a Kuf. It's just the phonetic. You think, it doesn't really matter. I'll show you in a moment that it matters a lot. And if you spell Kadosh with a K because it just doesn't matter, you've missed something really big. So I force some of these issues in order to remind people what it is we're really trying to learn here, spelling it with a Q, a Kuf. For example, Gaddafi, right, the leader of Libya, who's no longer around. Sometimes I've seen it spelled with a G, sometimes with a K, and sometimes with a Kuf. Because in English we go, whatever. This is Yahweh's word. It's a really big deal. Okay. In terms of taking a break, see, it's just saying, okay, what I'm going to do, we'll take a break, and then when let me just show one thing about the word Torah, then we'll take a break. How's that? Okay. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, we'll take what, 10-minute break, 5-minute break? 10 minutes, okay. Another one? Oh, okay, sure, great. But here's the thing. I could stay longer, but because of Kenny and Sharon's matters to be concerned with, we're going to leave at 6. If anybody wants to talk about stuff, we could make it tomorrow or something. I'm not sure what the timing will be. But I'd be happy to discuss these things. So if I have to come back another time, if anybody feels like they're interested, I live up in Oregon, I'd be happy to come back. I'll leave you a bunch of stuff to think about. And then if you want me to come back, we can have some other discussions some other time. We could do that. But I'm going to be flying out of here on Wednesday, or Tuesday, I guess. But just to know, just so you know, there is so much here. I'm trying to give you a sense of appreciation for it. And this next thing we're going to talk about is the main thing, but you have to be familiar with the letters in order to go anywhere with this. But just so you know, my website, my email is on there, and if you call up, I can't spend too much time on the phone, but I do try to talk to people if they call me. Because I'm trying to help people understand this. So 4 hours goes by like that. But anyway, Torah, Tav, Vav, Resh, Hey. I'll get into how do you tear apart words and see what they mean in the next session, but I was asked about this. Tav is the sign of the cross, Frank Seekins says. Vav is a nail, Resh is a man, and Hey is revealed. So, you could say revealing the man who was nailed to the cross. You're reading it backwards, but that's in the word Torah. The word Vav Resh is the phonetic or, which is light. Of course, Aleph Vav Resh is the word used for or, but menorah, Mem Nun, Mem is the place that is birthed, Nun is where it jumps out from. So the place that something abides, that it leaps out from. What leaps out? Or. Orah. The Orah is the light that jumps out from the place it is birthed. Technically, this light is a menorah. Now, we think of a menorah as 6 arms and the one in the middle. It's simply the word lampstand or light fixture. Menorah is simply light fixture. So when Yeshua in the book of Revelation is walking amongst the candlesticks, it might have been he was standing there looking at one menorah, or maybe a bunch of menorahs or a bunch of fluorescent lights. It could have been one menorah with 7 branches because there were 7 churches. But the word orah, or has to do with light. So you could say, well, Tav is the sign of the covenant. So Torah is the covenant of light revealed. That's another way to read it. 2 letters mean man. There's the Vav, which is the letter of a common man, you might say. I'll explain that next hour. Resh is an exalted man. The common man put to the weapon is the man slain. The Resh man coming back as Sheen, El Shaddai, with great splendor, fiery teeth, like the coming back of the Messiah. So here you have the covenant is that the Vav man will come back as the Resh man and reveal how the Torah is the description of who the Messiah is. But also, how does a common man, how does a caterpillar become a butterfly? Well, here is the prescription, the Tav, the contract of how a common man, a caterpillar type, becomes a Resh man, a butterfly type. And here it is it's put on display. So here in the Torah is the instructions from the Almighty of how the common caterpillar type man will become the glorious on display butterfly type man after resurrecting from the chrysalis of what looks like death. So there's a couple things in the word Torah. Okay, so now we can take a break.